15, 14, 13, 12, 11.
Soon all of us will have special names. Names designed to cause the cathode ray tube to resonate. Of course, Oblivion is not the name I was born with. That's my television name.
Suppose, for example, there were some kind of signal that could come through the television set that could make you out and kill your relatives, just out of nowhere. I mean, just suppose that could happen.
Is this still coming from Pittsburgh?
It's like they were beaming it straight into us.
Okay, come on, get out. I don't want you to see this. Huh? Come on, get out! I said I don't want you to see it! Get out!
Ready? Action!
Your television station offers its viewers everything from softcore pornography to hardcore violence.
Well, it's a matter of economics, Rena. We're small.
It's very hard for me to say what Videodrome is about in a sentence because I think it's totally misleading to say that it's a criticism of television or that it's an extension of network or something like that. It really is exploring what I've been doing all along, which is to see what happens when people go to extremes in trying to alter their total environment to the point where it comes back and starts to alter their physical selves.
David himself really sold me on this project. There was something about, he's so self-effacing in a way. He's a very gentle, kind man. I always said to David, I said, you sure you write this stuff? I said, you look like this guy with, a beautiful wife, 2 beautiful children, your little home, he races Ferraris, which is, I think, the clue, because, underneath this civilized veneer, we have one of the strangest minds I think I've ever encountered.
I consider myself, ideal bourgeois. I just, the things that I'm concerned with in the films and the people that I'm dealing with in the film are fairly middle class in what they do and what they think and what they're trying to protect.
David Cronenberg writes from his nightmares. He only writes at night. He doesn't write during the day. And if we ever think about nightmares, the thing about them that's so horrifying is not that some terrible thing happens all of a sudden. It's that something is normal and I'm talking to you and all of a sudden my hand starts to explode or turn green and you're in a nightmare it seems to be normal, but there's something you sense is wrong, and it's the emotional terror, the almost subliminal terror as opposed to a logical terror.
What we were sort of looking for was something that would take me out of the sort of image that people had of me, Blondie and being a singer, and sort of being, sort of this cute, popsy little, character. We did, however, want, for the first film, something like comedy, something that would be light and sort of charming, and people would really love me. So Nikki is not exactly that.
What do you think, Nikki? Is it socially positive?
Well, I think we live in overstimulated times. We crave stimulation for its own sake. The thing to do is to not try to be a different character, but to let the situation sort of control what's happening. When I was really a little kid, I always said I wanted to be a movie star first because rock groups didn't really exist.
You know what Freud would have said about that dress?
Yeah. I mean, I've sort of been studying all my life. I've been observing and, I've been a fan and wanting to do it all my life.
Well, it's shaping up.
Videodrome is really a strange film, and we have to do some pretty disgusting things in this movie. For example, we're doing a makeup effect on a TV set. We have like a change-o TV that becomes flesh and grows veins and musculature, and it moves and undulates and all kinds of horrible things happen to it. We've never done any effects quite like we're doing in Videodrome. I started doing monster makeups when I was about 10 years old. I was fascinated by horror films on TV and started smearing grease paint on my face. And when I was about 13, I made my first mask, and I've been doing it ever since. We maybe should pump something from the eyes, too, as this is happening.
Yeah.
We have a lot of
I can leave the tubes in on the side.
very bizarre images, cancer bursting through people's faces, and slits developing on people's abdomens, and they're sticking their arms into it, and guns growing on people's hands. It's very strange.
I care enough, as a matter of fact, to give my viewers a harmless outlet for their fantasies, their frustrations, and personally I feel like it's a socially positive act. Yeah,
that would be good.
Yes. As you know, it's one of the most bizarre and fantastical scripts I think that I've ever read. Most people, the few people who've read it, feel the same way. And there's a tendency sometimes in lesser hands to make something like that, to make characterization less important because you have so much bizarreness associated with the story itself. And David, much to his credit, David Cronenberg, the director and writer of the creator of this whole vision, was very concerned with having it seem to be very realistic at first, and then things start to happen organically and by osmosis almost to creep into the whole film. And he felt it was very important to have a kind of texture to Max as a character that would make you be so concerned with him that as all these other things start to overlay, you become caught unawares.
15.
I wouldn't call it an obsession. I love characters who are obsessed because they're so directed and they're so single-minded, which is something that is very hard to do in the real world because there are so many things going on.
I love the character because I don't know exactly who he is. I mean, he keeps creeping up in different ways inside me. I mean, I'll do things in scenes, I'll just say things out of nowhere, little ad-libs and stuff that this wonderful crew happens to catch, luckily enough, and all of a sudden it's a completely different character than we thought we were going to have.
I don't really have a message that I feel that the world must hear in order to be saved at all. So, to that extent, my films are entertainment in the fullest sense. I mean, I like people to entertain my films rather than my films to entertain them, to entertain the ideas in the film. And the fact that film audiences are fragmented and that there are people who will just not understand what I'm doing or not care to know what I'm doing, to me that's inevitable. That's not a surprise at all. I personally get very offended when in the middle of a fiction film you see, let's say, an animal slaughtered and it's for real. I find that very offensive because it's a whole different level of reality interjected into the middle of a fiction. And I think it's a very cheap way of getting a response from an audience, because of course that kind of thing will always get a response. It gets a response from me, but not the right kind of response. But there are only wrong things in terms of what works for the context of a particular film. But in general, I'd say no, there's nothing you shouldn't be able to show on film.